everyone. Okay, cool. We're doing Facebook Live this morning. We being me and famous demo dolls, Corey and JJ. So I'm here this morning. Feel free to come over and join and type in some questions. Let me know if you can't hear me. So give me a sec here. Okay. So what I want to talk with y'all about this morning is something that I hear so often about sleep. Sleep is such a huge situation and sometimes big challenge for so many new families. And something I often hear with good reason is, why is there so much conflicting advice? So I want to talk about that a little. The first thing I want to do, though, in order to answer that before we talk about that, is to really look at who is the aware parenting approach to sleep best for. So we'll look at that. We need to kind of lay down some background there, and then we'll look at the thing about advice. So who is the aware parenting to approach to sleep best for? Why might you resonate with that? So in order to look at that, again, let's look at what are the strengths of the aware parenting approach to sleep. So aware parenting, what I love about it is it's always looking at underlying needs. What are the underlying needs of any situation where it's challenging, or there's challenging behavior, or there's crying, something going on that you don't understand, just really what's going on under the surface. Your baby is a wise human being, and to really look at what's going on under the surface. That's what I love about aware parenting. So with sleep, we're looking at what's preventing the baby from relaxing. So along the lines of underlying needs, if you have a baby who's not sleeping well, the whole family is tired, mom is exhausted, with the aware parenting approach, we're looking specifically for what is it that's preventing your baby from relaxing, and then addressing it at that level. So it's very different from cry it out or sleep training. We're not looking to address the kind of the external symptoms that you end up seeing. We are addressing them, but we're addressing them by going underneath. Also, I want to say this is not a judgment on approaches or anyone's choices. I want to kind of go through this so that you have some markers, some street signs, so to speak, to help you navigate what fits best for you and if aware parenting fits best for you. So another thing about aware parenting approach to sleep, typically there's some crying associated with sleep troubles, and aware parenting really looks at why that is, and how to address it. If you are having some sleep challenges but you don't experience your baby crying before sleep, notice if there's anything you do that if you didn't do, your baby would cry. That's beyond meeting immediate needs. If you notice something like that, that's the key. So my computer fan is running, so I hope you can still hear me. Let me know if you can't. So who might choose this approach to working with baby sleep? If you are someone who doesn't want to do cry it out or sleep training, this may be for you. If you wish there was another way to address crying and sleep beyond cry it out or distracting or pacifying, So what often happens, especially if you're noticing the crying before sleep, um, many people will see, also understandably, only two possibilities, with the feeling that, especially the feeling being taught in our culture, that you must stop all crying, even crying beyond immediate needs when you've gone through your list. So many parents will only see two avenues. You might see, well, there's cry it out, and if I don't want to do cry it out, then there's distracting somehow or pacifying. So some parents will feel they end up using themselves as a pacifier, or you don't want to end up doing that. Um, so this angle depends on your sentiment around that. But if you're someone who wishes there was another way than those two things, this offers a third way. It's really about, what do you do with that crying respectfully, without separating from it, as in cry it out, and without just distracting or pacifying it. Um, so, again, about who might choose aware parenting approach to sleep. If you find yourself having to do something, or you're working hard to get your baby to sleep, or to get your baby to stop crying, this may be a great approach for you. If you're someone who likes to get to the root cause of things and not just address surface symptoms, this is great for you. If you had a difficult birth for you or your baby, difficult birth, I find, will often play into how much a baby cries, and often can be related to sleep challenges. That's not always a direct relationship, but there's often a connection there. So, and then also, if you're someone who likes a gentle parenting approach, and then also if you feel in your gut like your baby is communicating with you and you want to foster that and really listen to your baby and foster those communication skills from the beginning, this will be amazing for you. So why is there so much conflicting advice? Hi guys. So again, to look at this, let's go backwards a little bit and mention aware parenting is really different from sleep training. It's not sleep training, because with aware parenting, we find that sleep is innate. And if your baby's not sleeping well, there's a reason. And that reason often comes around something related to, babies innately know that they need to relax in order to sleep. If you, this happens to me sometimes, if something's on my mind that I haven't really finished thinking about yet or figured out, I'll wake up at whatever hour in the wee hours of the morning, and it's like this thing has become enormous, and it just takes all of my thinking power, and I can't sleep. So if you've ever had that experience, or you have trouble falling asleep because there's something on your mind, or you feel tense, same thing with babies. They innately know they need to relax in order to sleep. So aware parenting is looking at this process. Why is your baby not relaxing, to address it on that level? But what often happens within that is that in order to relax, babies often need to let off some steam, so to speak. So that's the link to that crying beyond unmet needs, not unmet needs, immediate needs, that crying beyond immediate needs. So aware parenting is really addressing that whole aspect so that your baby can then follow his or her own innate cues for sleep. So it's very different from sleep training in that we're actually going into that whole area where the baby's not sleeping and where there might be crying. So we're actually really digging into that. So this whole process of why is the baby not relaxing? How can you support that? The crying in arms, that we call it, which is very, very different from cried out. Um, there's research on both ends to show that cried out increases stress hormones, crying in arms releases stress hormones. So this whole process directly relates to self-regulation for babies, true self-regulation, and the ability to sleep from there and relax. So when it seems like your baby is fighting sleep, it's generally those feelings popping up that the baby is fighting or feeling, or that the sleep is fighting. So what I find is that if an approach doesn't know about this information about the need to release these big feelings or to release stress in arms, if an approach doesn't fully understand that or isn't comfortable with it, then you will end up needing external based strategies. And again, this is not at all in judgment on an approach or parents' choices. I want to kind of give you the levels of involvement, or at least with aware parenting, so you can kind of gauge, does this match and resonate for you? But that conflicting advice, I don't know if I can explain what I see in my head. It's like there's the issue of sleep when it can be challenging. The deeper you go, you can go deep and get into like the underlying reasons. Why is the baby not relaxing? You can go underneath to find the underlying reasons, or you can go above to the behaviors you're seeing or the symptoms, like not falling asleep well, night wakings, that kind of thing. So you can address the stuff on the top externally. Sometimes that's in my mind, that's kind of where sleep training falls. It's kind of above this. And for me, aware parenting is really going underneath all of that to really look at the root causes and to let your baby grow and flourish from there in their own innate wisdom. So that's my Eliza concept picture of my brain. So that's oh, and to relate that to excuse me, to relate that to why there's so much conflicting advice, depending on what information you have or are comfortable with or know or have seen, you can enter this picture on these various levels. So if the approach or information is entering kind of up here on the surface area of seeing the symptoms and behavior and approaching it from there, that advice is going to look very different from advice or information that's coming from supporting underlying needs. So that's where, in my mind, as I see it, that's how you get such different conflicting advice. This will also relate to how you were raised as a child, so how we were handled as babies and children around emotions, communication, sleep, etc. All these things, how we were raised will influence how we feel with crying babies, with your own crying baby. So that comes into play in this picture as well. So there's there's what's happening with the baby, and then there's your own response and kind of navigating all of that. So when you add all of these layers and facets of this incredible gem of a life, then that you just have so many different entry points, and then what can seem like conflicting advice. So what I love, love, love about aware parenting is that it just really goes deep dive down underneath into underlying reasons, looks everything in the face, just really gets down into it. And then what we see in aware parenting is that doing that process really just frees children up to flourish and feel the world and respond to the world through their own wisdom and their own innate skills that they've come in with. And so there are many points in all of this for you as a parent to kind of connect with, see what resonates, see what fits for your life right now, see what piques your interest. For some parents, aware parenting is just, yes, that absolutely resonates, and I'm going down that road and never looking back. For some parents, especially if this is not your upbringing, parts of it will be very intriguing and curious. But then parts of it might feel counterintuitive, and it is very different from our cultural norm. So I would invite you to follow your curiosity on those points and just hold the space for what intrigues you, and be curious about those parts that you don't resonate with, if part of it resonates, because there's something interesting there. And then for some people, this really isn't the right match. So if these things really don't resonate with you, take that as well, and do what you need to do. Keep finding information to really look at what resonates for you and being curious about why. So to kind of summarize this up, aware parenting approach to sleep may resonate with you if you're the type of person who likes to know why, if you believe there's a reason why with sleep and crying, if you like to address root causes, if you're someone who really likes to set up long-lasting foundations, if that's all on your radar, if you're a highly sensitive person or have a highly sensitive child, this is so fabulous. So I think that it's an amazing approach and really sets up so much more than healthy sleep habits. So it addresses sleep, but then it just also, it's a springboard and a foundation for so much. It's a world-changing perspective that just lays a ton of foundations and is just totally rad. So let me know if you are watching this or you watch this later and you have any questions that you want to send along. You can message me here through Facebook or through my website, consciousbaby.com. Feel free to check in, say hi, come on over and ask some more questions if you want support with your family and your baby's sleep, and other wonderful things like motor development too. So thanks for joining in. Corey and CJ here. This is us. Have a great day, guys. Bye. Oh, oh, sorry. I'm still here. I just saw your your note. Let me read it. Okay. I have a question here. Thanks, Anna, if I'm saying your name right. I'm wondering if you could give us an example of one way you might use aware parenting to help understand why your baby's not sleeping. So, aware parenting is like, it's so simple and so complex at the same time sometimes. So, to help understand. So, there's different angles I can speak to your question from, but as far as helping understand why your baby's not sleeping, so one angle to this question is to kind of look at the string of relationship between not sleeping well. So let's backtrack from baby's not sleeping well. Why is the baby not relaxing? Often when somewhere around sleep, like pre-sleep or at night wakings, somewhere in there, there will often be a point where the baby would cry, where you've gone through basic needs have been met, but baby is still crying or fussy. That fussiness before sleep, um, as long as hunger is met, those are signals of some pent up stress or feelings. It often bubbles up around sleep because we're all more vulnerable when we're tired. So those feelings and that pent up stress tends to come up then around sleep. It can come up any time of the day, but often around sleep. So that's when, if we kind of read those cues before sleep or around sleep, and check in with the baby and say, hey, what's going on? And just pause and wait and see if that builds into a cry. If that fuss builds into a cry or the crying continues, another angle to this is if you find yourself needing to do something to stop that crying or to get your baby to sleep or put your baby to sleep. That's another key that your baby is just needing and trying to do this innate process of letting off some steam so that they can relax. So in that case, you would then hold your baby in arms. This looks different across ages. Sometimes mobile babies and toddlers don't want to be held, but that's kind of the details of aware parenting. But yeah, and I didn't explain this earlier. So what typically happens is after a big cry, after they let off steam and get those feelings out, one of the most common responses is to sleep and to sleep better, improved sleep. Because if you think about, like, if we have something on our mind and it's bubbling up just when we're falling asleep, or this time when we're vulnerable and we're just in that space, those feelings are bubbling up. If they get that out, then the body and the mind, their thinking can just relax. So one of the most common responses is then to sleep better and more deeply. And again, this is somewhat particular to each family and each baby. That's the general, but it depends on the patterns and habits that have been set up so far, the amount of time this takes. Sometimes it's immediate, you do a cry and baby sleeps. Sometimes it's not quite as immediate. Sometimes it's like opening up Pandora's box. You make the invitation and baby's like, oh, okay. And just keeps on going for a while. So if you see that hang in there, it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. Did that answer your question? There's lots of angles there. Let me know any other questions also. Pop in. I'll hang out here for a moment. Sorry, I didn't say that before. So, baby sleep. So, some of the most common. You're welcome, Elena or Elena. Some of the most common reasons parents contact me for sleep are constant nursing, constant night nursing, several wakings overnight, difficulty falling asleep or being put down, difficulty napping, not being able to put baby down for naps at all. And then also kind of on the other side of the coin is just to set up healthy sleep habits from the beginning. Okay, guys. So nice to be here with y'all this morning. Feel free to contact me beyond this, ask questions, and have an amazing day with your beautiful babies, beautiful mamas, and be in touch. And be on the lookout for more Facebook Lives. Bye. Okay, I need to keep hanging on for a moment. Jenna. Okay, so this question is, your son is 19 months. You followed aware parenting most of his childhood, yay, and loved it. Something recently changed, like a flip of a switch. Your 19-month-old is now screaming when being put down instead of putting himself to sleep. So it does change through the ages. Yeah, so again, this will have a few layers, but one angle to this is that the crying in arms process changes through the ages. Toddlers can be a very different process than a baby. Another angle to this is birth circumstances. If there was any stress or challenging situation around birth, it's like those birth elements will be processed sometimes slowly over time. So sometimes that stuff comes back around toddlerhood. Yeah, he'll scream when you leave the room. So that's a little bit more of a family specific question that I would need to talk to you further about. But what I often see in situations like this, and this may or may not be your situation, but what I often see is that, okay, so with the crying and the sleep, there's crying that a child will do just anytime and get out when they need to or pre-sleep. And then there's crying that's situation specific. So if there's a trigger, like if there was an early separation experience or a NICU, neonatal intensive care unit type experience, sometimes those types of experiences, some of it will be processed in any crying, but some won't be triggered until they're in a similar situation later. So if a parent has always been with the baby for all his life, and then during toddlerhood, you start going back to work or separating or going out for the day, whatever, sometimes that can be a trigger. Or being in a room, lights off can be a trigger. So that's something that is a little more particular, but those are some of the examples, if that helps. And then even from a whole nother realm can be food sensitivities or environmental sensitivities. So there's all that to look at as well. Any other questions before we head off here? Jenna, I hope that helped. Or if not, feel free to contact me. I know that sometimes this stuff can be so confusing. It's like for parents, it's like there's not just conflicting advice about sleep. It's then how do you apply, if you are interested in aware parenting, you try to apply it, and then you're finding that you're still not getting good sleep. In many cases, there's further investigation, family specific, but it's still about all the beautiful aware parenting principles of underlying needs. Why is the baby not relaxing? And just really listening to your child. Alrighty, y'all. Any last questions before I get off? Just hang out here for a sec. Okay. So signing off, unless a comment comes in when I'm about to press the button again. Thank you for your questions. Thanks for joining me, and really nice to be here with y'all. And have an amazing day. Bye.